This is the Wandering Chronicles podcast.
Hello.
My name is Ashley.
And I'm Jeannie. And we're joining you from the Pacific Northwest this week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What have you
So,
enjoyed so far in Portland?
I have never actually been to Portland, so this is my first time. At least I
Yeah.
don't think I've been to Portland. I know I've been to Seattle.
I've never
I've
been
also
to
been to
either.
Eugene.
What?
I've been to Eugene.
Oh, Eugene. I
Or,
thought you said something about poutine.
no. I hope
So,
not.
how was your week? Did you have a good week?
Oh my God. This has been the longest week of my life.
Yeah.
I think you can agree with me.
Yeah, I took too much time off over Christmas, I think. Going back to work was a
Oh,
mistake.
yeah, that was not rough, but it was a mistake to go back.
It was a mistake. It was an error in judgment for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I took like 5 days off, and then I worked 2 days, and then I took 5 days off for New Year's Eve and for New Year's. And going back last week was incredibly rough, and then I had some cat issues, and
Yeah.
I have been stressed, which made me really grateful that you were doing the research this week. I could just kind of
Well,
like,
I was very excited the minute that we were lucky enough to land in Portland. So I had a topic in mind immediately. I had to do a little bit of research to make sure that it would work within our constraints, and I do believe it will. I do think a little bit of a trigger warning is in order, however,
uh,
just for people who are very uncomfortable with the topic of death. That is going to be spoken about a lot in this episode, not in a negative or tragic way. I would say it's more
oh.
lighthearted, but you'll have to tell me
I'm
if you
so excited. Okay, at the end of the episode, I'll let you know if I think I was
you
right.
can tell me in the middle of it.
I mean,
It'd
if I
be
sc-
a good
if I
testament.
scream yes in the middle, I'll then you'll know.
It would be a good testament to how well you know me,
I mean,
which you
it
do
might.
very well.
Yes, I do know you very well, and I think you know me very well. So if
True.
this is what
This
you're
is true.
talking about, then I'm very, very, very excited.
Well, I think a lot of us have, even if we haven't been to Portland, we know a lot of things about Portland. I think most of us, when we think of Portland, we think of hipsters because of Portlandia. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've ever seen that show, but it is choice. It's
not.
great. And
So fun fact: Fred Armisen freaks me out in a bad way. Really, really freaked out by him.
I mean, honestly, fair. I have I have the same thing with Nicolas Cage, but I feel
Okay,
like it's
I get that.
justified at least in that case because he's a weird motherfucker.
Yes, yes, Nicolas Cage is weird, but he's the kind of weird that I'm like, I want to see where this train wreck goes. Where's Fred Armisen? I'm like, I don't know if I want to see where this train wreck goes, but I'm like, I'm a little freaked out by him.
This train wreck is already disembarked, and I'm ready to be done now. You know what I learned about this is another fun this is way off the rails speaking of trains, but I learned just yesterday that Nicolas
Mhm.
Cage bought a mansion in New Orleans, and it was where a serial killer had lived.
I feel like I've heard this before.
And then I forget what year, but
But
it
then again,
was
he makes a lot of really weird choices, so this would
oh,
just be like one in a many, many list that he has
yeah,
done.
but he didn't pay for it and it got foreclosed upon.
Okay, again, that doesn't surprise me at all about him, because from what I've heard, he's had that issue a few times.
I
Oh,
don't
Nick,
I can't I
get your
shouldn't
shit together.
well, I think it's too late. I did hear yesterday also that he's about to be a dad, which I don't know if he has been before, but it seems weird. So,
Oh, that seems like a bad choice.
yeah. And then I told Jeff that. Jeff's like, yeah, with his, like, I think he said sixth wife or fifth wife. And I'm like, okay, that story checks. Um, anyway,
Yeah.
this episode
This is
is
not the
not
Nick
about
Cage hour.
Nicolas Cage. Um, but one of the things that I have always associated Portland with is environmentalism and
Nice segue.
sustainability. Yeah.
I liked it.
So I was really excited when we drew this city. but also the subject that the city was about nature, because I consider myself a sustainably minded person, and I try to make good eco-friendly choices. And one topic that I am almost questionably obsessed with is the topic of death. I'm very interested in like funeral practices and options for
I
people's
do
end
know
of
you're
life
gonna talk
care. And she knows me well enough to know exactly what we're going to talk about, which is human composting.
Yay! I'm so excited. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Like, does he drive a car?
I'm not going to sing. Nobody in this podcast is going to want to hear me sing. It's terrible. CIA could use my singing voice as a torture technique for interrogations. That's how bad it is. I'm not going to do it.
Okay, fair.
I'm not going to give them ammunition.
Fair. So the reason that we're talking about human composting in relation to Portland, but more specifically Oregon, because it was a statewide venture, on June 12th, State Governor Kate Brown signed House Bill number 2754 into law. This bill, which was passed by Oregon's legislature, I am going to pronounce Oregon different every single time I say it. I'm sorry. It's the Iowa in me.
If I had known this was going to happen, I would have like printed out a list of different emphases on different letters and just
Syllable.
see what the syllable.
Emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah,
I know it's Oregon, but I've spent 39 years thinking it was Oregon and only found out it was Oregon like 6 months ago. So it's a lot of conditioning for me to replace it in my brain. And I'm going to do it every time.
To be fair, us Midwestern people definitely have our own language.
Yeah, for sure.
Way we speak.
Yeah. I will never profess to be any kind of dialectical goddess.
I mean, if it weren't for my brother going to school in Eugene, Oregon, I would never have known how to pronounce Oregon.
I only know because of the Morbid podcast, because they got made fun.
Oh my god, I will never get over listening to them mispronounce Naperville as Naperville and DuPage as DuPage. But there's another podcast that I listened to that mispronounced Joliet as Joliet. My thing is that people want to pronounce Illinois names in a much fancier way than they actually are. So just putting it out there, if you're not sure how it's pronounced, say it in the most boring way possible, and that's correct.
I've been in Missouri for 7 years now. I live in St. Louis. There's a heavy French influence on a lot of the words here. And there is a creek not far from the city that I used to live near. It would flood all the time. It was called Joachim.
Okay.
It's Hokeem. I don't give a shit what St. Louis people say. I'm not from here, and I think it's called Hokeem. And Joaquin Phoenix would probably agree with me.
Yeah, probably.
I get it. I understand. I'm not from here. But I'm just saying that at some point, you have to just let the new girl be.
If and when my stepmother, who is from St. Louis, ever listens to it, I will be curious her take on the pronunciations of St. Louis area neighborhoods and rivers and roads and stuff, because she's a native.
Yep. I live on a road that is it's the same way, but I don't want to triangulate my location too much. But my road where I live is very
well. I don't want to triangulate myself, but I live on the same street I grew up on, except that it's a street and not a road.
Oh, interesting.
Well, yeah.
I don't think you triangulated yourself at all.
I don't think I did either, but yeah, it's Chicago. But well, shit, I just kicked my.
It's not exactly Joliet.
Or DuPage.
DuPage.
Or my favorite, Naperville, which honestly they should change it to Naperville, because that's way better than Naperville.
I agree.
I would love to live in Naperville as long as I could take a nap all the time.
I mean, it seems like a Sleepy Town, USA.
Sleepy Town in Naperville.
Anyway, we're recording this at night, and you can tell, I think.
Yes. The first episode was recorded early afternoon. We were much more on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely a little loopy.
No. It's gonna be a rough one, guys. Sorry.
Let's find out about death rituals. I'm so excited.
So yeah, like I said, the on June 12th, 2021, Kate Brown signed the bill that legalized human composting, which is also known as natural organic reduction, which I will call it both throughout. The traditional burial option takes a large toll on the environment. Some of the chemicals used in embalming go into the ground, potentially putting drinking water at risk. Formaldehyde, in particular, which is used in embalming, is known to be one of the top 10% of EPA's most hazardous and damaging chemicals. And you're putting that in the ground every time you put an embalmed body into the ground, which is normal in the United States. But I can see why people who are interested in eco-friendly options would not want to be a part of that.
I completely agree. And as a side note or side story, every time I go to visit my mother who passed away 19 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a concept of time anymore. It's been too long. But she's
Yeah.
buried in a mausoleum. Well, not buried, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. She's entombed in a mausoleum.
Mm-hmm.
And the mausoleum also prepares bodies in the basement. So every time you walk in, there's that smell of like the chemicals they use and formaldehyde,
Yeah.
and it smells disgusting. So
Yeah.
that's my little tidbit on formaldehyde. It's bad for the environment. It's just horrible to smell.
I had to take gross anatomy in college, which is the autopsy biology lab. Do not love the smell of formaldehyde. It's not a favorite of mine.
No, I can't imagine anybody who likes it would be somebody I'd want to be around because I'd be terrified that you're gonna kill me.
Yeah. It's bad for the environment, and it just makes sense that people would want other options. And I know that a lot of people think cremation is an eco-friendly option, and compared to traditional burial, yeah, cremation is better than that, but it's not the best option. Still use fossil fuels.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
putting stuff into the air as well, I'm sure, with the smoke and everything that comes off of it.
Yeah. Well, then remember when we're going to mention COVID a couple times in here, but
Oh, God.
when they were going through the really bad wave of COVID in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
they had to increase or lift the EPA regulations because the cremation centers were burning. They were cremating so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the air quality was lowered to such a rate that the standards weren't being met.
Yeah.
Just for them to
It's
keep up with the
understandable.
demand. So,
It's understandable.
the
You can't really
option
keep a
of
body around for
natural.
very long.
No, especially when you're in a pandemic and they just keep coming.
Yeah.
Like
And didn't.
it'd be different if you were in an area where you have like cold weather and it's a small
Yeah.
populated area and you're not going to keep getting new people,
I
but
imagine.
unfortunately,
I imagine the amount of energy it would take to refrigerate all those bodies, and where do you keep them? So that makes sense. In LA, it's
yeah.
not like you can, put them in a box outside and hope for some cold weather. Like
You know what's
right now.
interesting? This is a fun fact, not related to anything. Well, kind of related to this, actually. It
Okay.
is related to this, but not related to the United States. Are you familiar with Svalbard
No.
in Norway? So Svalbard is an island off the coast of Norway. It's Norwegian land, and it is in the Arctic Circle, and people live there. There is a town there called Longyearbyen, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a mining town for a lot of years, but now people just live there. And when the Spanish flu happened, which was the pandemic in 1918, people on the island got sick and their bodies have still not decomposed
Oh,
to
that's
this day.
crazy because it's so cold there.
Because of the
That is bonkers.
permafrost. Yeah.
It's like a museum of death. You can actually see the bodies and how it's preserved. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't want to, but I do think that kind of thing is very interesting. It's just like the
Yeah,
catacombs in
exactly.
Paris. It's where we have a 100% mortality rate as humans. So
Yeah, it's going to
unfortunately, we
happen. It's
can't
just a
avoid it.
matter of
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so Natural organic reduction is an after-death option in which unembalmed human remains are processed and turned into soil. The body is broken down with organic materials like wood chips or straw for several weeks inside of an enclosure until it becomes soil. It is powered by beneficial microbes that occur naturally in our bodies and in the environment. So the only thing that they add is organic material
Okay.
to hasten the process. Human composting is a bodily disposition option that saves carbon through a combination of factors. First, human composting uses much less energy than cremation, which uses fossil fuels to create enough heat to reduce a human body to inert ash in 1 to 3 hours. Carbon is also deposited into the soil that is produced through natural organic reduction, creating nutrient-rich soil naturally in about 30 days. Human composting facilities allow loved ones to take some or all of the soil generated from a person's reduction. Any soil that you
Wow.
don't take is donated to the facility's designated conservation efforts, revitalization of wetlands, to local plant growth that supports and protects vulnerable wildlife species. One that I read about, and we'll get into it, this is not actually legal in Oregon just yet. It will be coming this
Okay.
summer. So a lot of the existing businesses are in Washington, where it's been legal for a couple of years now.
Okay.
And the one business that I read a lot about is called Recompose. It's run by the founder. Her name's Katrina Spade. She's a genius. And they donate the soil
Okay.
to Bell's Mountain, which is a natural conservatory of land that has been a mating place for salmon because there's a stream. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of the salmon that used to mate there aren't going there anymore because a lot of the trees that lived there aren't there. They don't have the soil capacity because of erosion. So, what they're doing with the soil created by the natural organic reduction is fortifying the banks of this creek so that trees can grow. The
Okay.
trees create a shade cover, making the creek cool enough for the salmon to come up and spawn. So it's
Huh.
basically one thing, soil, that's going to help the trees, it's going to help the creek, it's going to help the salmon.
Wow.
It's just one element used to fix all of these other things. So it's kind of
That's
incredible
that's
how
fascinating.
much, yeah, it's kind of incredible how much can benefit from this one action that you choose.
Yeah,
So
but it's
that's
like
such
it's
a
like the ultimate giving back. Like
exactly, that's such
it
a
really is.
selfless
Like
act.
it's not degrading to the body in any way. It's just letting it naturally decompose.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are interested in green burial, which is a great option too. But the
Mm-hmm.
nice thing about human composting is it's a really great option for people who live in densely populated areas where plots of land for individual burial are hard to come by
Mm-hmm.
or very expensive, which is difficult for a lot of people to afford. So, if you have a green burial in a city area, like in St. Louis here, there is a green cemetery here, but the price tag to even just be there is so high,
Yeah,
inaccessible to most people.
exactly.
So, it's a nice option for a more urban area.
Yeah, I know my brother's best friend's brother passed away last year, and I know he chose a form of green burial, and I can't remember exactly what he chose, but I know I believe he chose to be buried in a forest with some trees and just
Hmm.
to give back. So, but it took a lot of work to get that accomplished because he lived in a state where it wasn't technically legal, but he found a bunch of loopholes and made it
Interesting.
happen. And
Yeah, and I mean, there are options to depending upon where you live, choose to have your loved one buried on what family land or, at
the
home.
nice thing is that you get to take the soil home after,
Exactly.
and you can create a garden that is fueled by your loved one.
Hmm.
That's beautiful.
Or
You get
just
to
if you're in the
flower
city,
or
maybe a plant box or something,
yeah,
that's
something.
still the essence of them, but you can still give that huge gift back because
That's
it
that's a
it
beautiful
creates
concept.
a cubic meter, which is like a ton, a literal
Yeah.
ton of soil. That's just from
That's
one body.
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Another really big thing that makes this a positive is the price tag, because it costs about half the price of your traditional burial. Traditional burials can run from about 7,000 to 12,000 depending upon where in the United States you live and what types of things you choose. Whereas so far, again, this is limited data because there's only 3 states where it's legal, and only
Uh-huh.
one of them I think has operating facilities at this point, because the other 2 are still in the process of getting that ready.
So
Um,
what are the three states? I know one is Oregon.
Washington and Colorado.
Not even a little bit surprised by that. Okay.
Not at all, not at all. Washington was the first. So they are up and running at this point, and they've
Okay.
had a few people come through. Oregon and Colorado are still in the
Setting it up.
process phase of, yes, of, I think both of them will be officially legal this summer
Oh,
of
that'd be really
2021.
cool.
Yeah. So the effort to gain support for human composting in Oregon involved the Oregon Mortuary and Cemetery Board, which is headquartered in Portland.
Okay.
So far, no companies have applied for a license to provide natural organic reduction options when the law goes into effect on July 1st of 2022. Recompose, a company that I've just mentioned earlier that provides the service in Washington, where it was legalized on 5/1/20, has announced plans to expand their business to Oregon within the next 2 or 3 years. Currently, they're working on expanding to Colorado first, and
Okay.
then their plan is to go to Oregon. But in the meantime, human composting provides a business opportunity for anyone who wants to begin the practice within the state. And the research that was done by Katrina Spade and others that were working on that with her kind of created a working model. It looks like, have you ever seen the Japanese capsule hotels?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Those
so,
things freak me out.
oh, I think I would love it, but I'm still a kid that will sleep in a fort in my 40s. So it kind of looks like that though, where there's like a cubby, and there's
Yeah.
a cot that they put the corpse in with the natural organic material that they're putting it in with, and then it's heated with heated air as it goes through the
Okay.
decomposition process. But that's how you know that you're getting your family member, your loved one's soil, and not a
It's
conglomeration of
yeah.
everybody's.
Yeah,
So it's
because
very cool.
it's kind of like cremation. They're in their own individual box, the tray that
Exactly.
collects all the remains, and then you know you're getting your loved one's remains.
Exactly.
Some clarification because I was actually curious about how they know who gets what. I don't want to get Bob Smith when
Oh yeah. So there's ample
I
demand. Oregonians
think that's right.
who want to participate in this death option for their bodily disposition when they pass away, because there were so many letters written to the legislature. I actually found where they had been uploaded online and was reading them. A lot of them were from Portland residents
Yeah.
who are interested in, having access to that. Elizabeth Fournier, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She owns the Cornerstone Funeral Services, which is servicing the Portland area. And she's also on the Oregon Mortuary and Cemetery Board, Advisory Board for Natural Organic Reduction. And she says that nobody has applied for a license yet. And this is going into practice on July 1st. So that was surprising to her given how many people had expressed interest, because it is, you know, as much as it's hard to say, opening a business that is death based, you're always going to have customers. Her business to date has been helping Oregonians who are looking for the service in making arrangements with businesses outside of the state in Washington, which was the first of the 3 states that are legal with natural organic reduction.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the reason that I'm so excited about this option, obviously, just as a person who's interested in eco-friendly options for everything, but even more than that, I mean, I think since 2020, and you can attest to this,
Yeah.
we've watched the planet. It's mad at us. Like, Weather
Yeah.
is getting more severe. It's happening more often. We literally just had a huge tornado streak that went through Kentucky, like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's December. That's just not normal. And it's going to keep getting worse. And on top
the
of
planet
that,
is mad at us.
yeah,
It's trying to get rid of the lice that live on its skull, and we are that lice.
yeah. hmm And I mean, we're also in the middle of a global pandemic, which at this point, at the day that we are recording this, has taken 836,000 American lives. That's just American lives.
Ugh.
It's been more than 5 million worldwide.
Ugh.
So
So much death.
anything that gives people more options is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't
Any
keep
kind of
burning.
option. Yeah, I mean, that's a fine option for a lot of people. I mean, when it comes to finances, especially, cremation is the cheapest option. You can get a direct cremation for like $2,000, and that's the least expensive. So for a lot of people, that is the most accessible option. But it's nice
Exactly.
that there are options for people who have maybe the privilege to spend a little bit more money, but also want to make a choice on how they're impacting the earth when they leave it, because you know our next generations are stuck with whatever we do with this.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. I've always thought about, I mean, I'm not freaked out by death by any means. I think it's an interesting subject matter,
yeah.
regardless of anyone's feelings about it. You got to admit, it's something that we all experience at one point or
Yeah.
another. And, there's a lot of, they're coming out more frequently now, but there are more eco-friendly options other than straight in the ground or burned up. Like there's
hmm
some great options coming out there. Personally, I kind of want my body donated to a body farm because I just think that's
that's
super fascinating.
yeah, that's a great option. The only thing that's bad about that is you have to die at the right time of year,
Yeah.
and it can be expensive to transport a body from there's only three body farms in the
Yeah.
entire United States. I think the closest one to you would be in Tennessee. Yeah, but I do think it's a great option.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's good to have a backup plan if that's your plan, because if you happen to pass away in between school classes being in session, the students are the reason. Those
They,
body farms are run by
yeah,
students, and if there's nobody there to learn from
the
the
body,
donation of
then
your corpse, then it's not
it's not
the
worth it.
most
Yeah.
useful. There is a really great option called alkaline hydrolysis as well,
Oh.
which has to do it's called water cremation, but it's basically putting the body in a heated pressurized chamber. It's a slightly alkaline solution
Mm-hmm.
that reduces your body to bones, and it's inert, so it can go right down the drain and it won't damage anything.
Interesting.
That's legal not everywhere, but in a
Yeah.
lot more places than human composting. And if you live in a state that's not Washington, Oregon, or Colorado, and you're interested in your state having natural organic reduction or human composting, write letters to your legislature, because these are things that happen. There's also a really good, like I said earlier, Katrina Spade, her name is. She organizes a lot of action oriented bills and laws and tries to get this available in more states. So
Okay.
she has a Instagram.
We can put it in our show notes.
Always post like what states currently working on it and what you can do to get involved. But writing letters to your legislature saying that you want this to be an option in your state is the best first step. So that's what you can do. So
Definitely going to look into that. I don't know how it
yeah.
would work in Illinois because, we're frozen over about 6 months out of the year, but it'd
Well,
be an
but
interesting.
they're indoor facilities.
Oh,
It's a big wall. Yeah. So Recompose, there's a video about it on YouTube.
I
Look
was
up.
picturing an outdoor space for some reason. I don't know why.
No, she's got a big indoor facility. It's like a
Okay.
warehouse,
Okay.
and there's a wall. It's almost like a dome actually. And it's got all like the capsule hotel feel where there's all the little cubbies.
Huh.
And when you pass away and this is your plan, you can have what they call a laying in ceremony, where your family can come and you'll be in a cot and they can pile your body with the wood chips and just the organic material that they're going to put with your corpse in the capsule. And then whatever their wish was, there was one example in a video that I watched where there was a family where the decedent was Gothic. So he wanted everybody to come to the laying in ceremony wearing their best band t-shirts. And they played a music festival on a screen because that was something that he was really into. And you can really personalize it to whoever it is. You know, the nice thing about this is it's almost like the people that are choosing this as an option are also making up what it is as they go, because it didn't exist before.
It's very customizable, it seems.
Exactly. Unlike traditional funerals where you kind of like expect the same formula of things.
It's very ABC,
sometimes you're disappointing family because it's different. Whereas when you're doing something that's different outside of everything, you know, you kind of get to decide what it is. And I think that's super cool.
I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm not surprised I agree with you on that, but yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed learning about this topic. So, like I said, if it's something that you want to get more involved in your state to get this legalized, definitely look into who you would need to write a letter to in your legislature, whoever your representative is, and get in contact with them and let them know that you want this to be legalized in your state. The more people that do it, the more likely it is. And even if you don't choose it,
I'm going to look into it for Illinois.
Yeah, even if you don't choose it, you're opening up options for everybody in your state.
Exactly.
And diversity is great, and we need more of it. So,
and honestly, there's got to be a way for humans to give back to this planet because we've already taken away a lot.
Yep. It's awesome. So I'm really glad that we got to go to Portland and learn about this week.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I loved that.
See, you knew I was going to be excited. I was going to talk about this, so I loved it. I just loved that you knew that was my choice.
Yeah, so I thought you were going to talk about the pods that you can put a body under a tree. That's what I was expecting, but this was even better than that. So thank you. Yeah. You kind of like blew my mind.
This is the same kind of idea, but I think it's a little bit more sustainable for humanity, not nature-wise, because you can package it to market it to a lot of different people, as opposed to the pods with trees being very specific because you have to be in a certain area where you can plant that to begin with.
Exactly.
And
this is much more of a give back to the earth in a wider variety of ways, because you're basically being condensed into nutrient-rich soil, and then that can be used in any number of places, whether your family wants to take it or not.
Yep.
That's incredible. I love that. I love everything about that. That makes me so happy. Thank you for taking us on this journey. This is so excited.
So do you want to see where we're going to go next week?
Yeah, let's get out the Geo website. For some reason, I will never remember the name of. I will pick a subject when you have a city.
Yeah, let me see. It looks like Wisconsin.
Ooh, my neighbor to the north. It's my state's hat.
You're so great. I love you. You're weird and I love you.
Comes in the dino suit.
We're going to go to, I hope I say this right, Winnicon, Wisconsin.
I'm going to go with Winnicon. I've never heard of it or been there, but I'm going to go with Winnicon.
Okay. We landed in the middle of a lake.
Well,
I hope it's frozen.
This time of year probably is, yeah.
All right, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to have, picking one. It's a love story. A love story in Wisconsin.
I can't wait. Well, I'll meet you there.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
All right. Happy wandering.
Happy wandering.
Thank you for listening to the Wandering Chronicles podcast with your host, Ashley and Jamie. You can follow us on social media at Wandering Chronicles Pod on TikTok, Wandering Chronicles Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and WND Chronicle Pod on Twitter. Or you can send us an email at wanderingchroniclespodcast@gmail.com. New episodes drop every Thursday. If you haven't already, please tell everyone you know to listen to our podcast. Your mailman, the guy who changes your tires, your kid's nanny, your nail technician, that young lady who walks the dogs, your neighbor, the one that's really loud, principal at your kid's school. I bet they listen to podcasts. Hey, thanks. Bye.